Don in London, hello. It's January 31st, 2013. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, and my behaviour went with it. Trying to be perfect and never so, and trying to be with the right people, in the right places, doing the right things and having the right things. And always tomorrow would be better, rather than living in the moment, living in today. So, a very good alcoholic. Got there fairly quickly, I suspect. I think it was the first drink which did the damage, because it changed the way I felt about the world. Made it happier, made it more convivial, joyful, and then it did the opposite for quite a long time, as I tried to get back to that joyfulness. But the harder I tried, the more elusive it was. Anyway, no longer a drinker, one day at a time. Got here with professional help and also the help of a fellowship, and that fellowship is Alcoholics Anonymous. So AA is my continuous sobriety companion. Indeed, everyone in AA are my companions, because we share our experience, strength and hope together. So the purpose of this video is sharing a bit of what's working for me today, and some of the reflections I've made about past, present and living in the now. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. It hasn't happened yet. So the fellowship of AA put me on track, and I don't speak for anyone in the fellowship, and I don't speak for the fellowship because it has no spokespersons or leaders as such. Simply we are trusted servants doing what we can to share a message of experience, strength and hope. And we all have the right and responsibility to share where we feel is right for us, and do it in a responsible way, hopefully. So I choose to share the fact that I'm an alcoholic, never been in the place of anonymity around that, because it was very obvious to those people who cared about me what my situation was, and there was no hiding from it. Indeed, hiding made it worse. So how does fellowship help me? Well, I'm going to share the AA preamble, and then share some of my reflections about life in general, or how it was and how it is. So this is the AA preamble, which we hear at the beginning of every meeting, and it sort of settles me into being in the moment of now to a large extent. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So there'll be no recognition of this video from the Fellowship of AA, and quite rightly not so, because it's one voice of many, and what we'll learn in the end, it's the many voices in recovery we encounter, many people we meet and encounter in meetings daily, which makes the difference ultimately. But I'm just sharing some experience, strength and hope of my thoughts and feelings this morning. Maybe my feelings and my thoughts. Feelings always first. Mood, thinking, action. So for the 31st, being the end of the month, I've been talking about step 1, or sharing about step 1, powerlessness over alcohol. And if I were to take a drink, life would become unmanageable again. So it's sort of winding up on step 1 and starting step 2 tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow, February the 1st. Goodness me, a whole month gone already. So, old life experiences, new life experiences, contingent on our spiritual condition. So we're having a spiritual condition time right now. It depends how well we know our feelings, and it depends how much we are living in reality. So old life was spiritual, new life is spiritual, but the emphasis is different. No matter what is going on today, good, bad or ugly, we are having a spiritual experience. We can feel distracted in the moment, and in the moment we do not connect. We cannot hear what is going on and respond to the present moment. Or we may be fully engaged in the moment of now and feel right and connected to and able to cope with reality. At the same time, nobody is immune and completely focused in the moment of now all the time, because life will always have its ups and downs. So we have the old tape of the old life running in our heads, here we go again, and we have this new idea of let's be open to what's going on right now. Am I connected to it, or am I thinking I'm in the wrong place? All happens, and we have ups and downs in life, and it's all spiritual. It's about our ability to cope with it, reality, in the ever-present moment of now. When I was new to recovery, a newcomer, my experience and wisdom had me on my knees, overwhelmed and living in my less preferred traits, personality traits and extremes of negative behaviour, sometimes called defects of character. The extreme elements and personality traits are about excessive and persistent fear, isolated and pretending to be okay when asked, or when I could answer the phone, but that was not very often, and always not showing my feelings by putting on a brave face, and my ego covering up shame and guilt about my illness and fatal malady, because it had taken me to death's door more than once. As a daytimer, as I put it, living in the day, or even an old-timer, somebody with a number of years in fellowship, all these defects of character, a defect being an extreme rather than a natural amount of something relating to what is going on, one day at a time. I have been learning how to have the courage to change, develop faith in doing the next right thing, and asking for help when help is needed to resolve and cope in the present moment of now. The shift from step 6, which are called defects of character, the old life, fear, brave-facing, ego, to step 7 and the new life, where we learn how to be open, honest and willing to make good one day at a time. And this fits in with can and cannot do as well. The old life is always there in our history, and we can revert back to our old behaviour, because it's natural to want to be able to go for it in whatever way we used to. And trying a new life when we're a newcomer is pretty daunting. So, as a newcomer, I had read the AA literature, the AA Big Book, the AA 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book, and quite a number of other pamphlets and books, including one called As Bill Sees It, which was a daily reflection written by the co-founder of the fellowship. After all that reading and absorbing, if you give me an exam paper to test my knowledge, I feel I would have done reasonably well. So if fellowship had a graduation day based on knowledge, I would have passed with flying colours, ? Well, good enough, I feel, and I would have been okay, passing the exam. And then I would have missed the point completely. Knowledge and an exam would not have helped me at all when it comes to emotional and spiritual living. Understanding my emotions in the moment of now is wisdom learned from experience and not from some textbook. And fortunately, there are no textbooks in fellowship. Simply the sharing of experience, strength and hope written by people in recovery in the moment. We can write our own book of experience based on our wisdom of living, and it is the experience of life which is enhanced when we understand and live the principles of the 12 steps and the 12 traditions. So it's living the principles rather than knowing them. Any fool can share parrot fashion what they know, and it's a bit like somebody who knows the Bible inside out and quote bits at you when it's appropriate for them to do so, but whether it's appropriate for you to hear it or to listen to it or make sense of it is another matter. So things have to be comprehensible, understood in the moment of now, and the only way to learn the 12 steps and 12 traditions is to live them. No matter how well we might pass an exam knowing the content of the books, it's a bit like when we're learning at school from a textbook. That is a textbook, and it requires you learn it. I wasn't very good at that. Well, it depended on the subject, of course. Anyway, coming back to today and what it was like to be a newcomer. As a newcomer, living in the moment of now is hell, or rather, speaking only for me, because I don't speak for anybody else. Living in the moment in the first few days of sobriety was hell. Rattling, which a lot of people who come off drugs say, rattling is the worst. Rattling around, sleepless, body constricted, and the dull ache in my mind and in my body, wanting a drink and not needing a drink, as drink would mean I would have to start over again. But I wasn't the best immediate textbook student. I was like everybody else. I did a bit of slip and slide along the way in my emotions, as well as reverting and relapsing back to drink. It wasn't a straightforward, here we go, and it's all jolly. It ain't like that. Well, it can be for some, maybe. But for me, I was just a plain old geezer trying to get sober, and it was hard work. So, body constricted and the dull ache in my mind and in my body, wanting a drink and not needing a drink, as drink would lead back to starting over. The insanity was all about self-medication and expecting I would be okay the next day. So, the madness of, I'll give up tomorrow, I'll give up tomorrow, it'll be alright tomorrow, I won't need to keep on doing this. Breaking the insanity of wanting a drink to fix the pain. Start again. The insanity was always about self-medication and expecting I would be okay the next day, which led to dependence and addiction and continuously expecting the next day to be better, and it never was. Breaking that insanity of wanting a drink to fix the pain, I wanted a drink, and a drink was the last thing I needed if I were to change anything and try and get a bit of courage, just an inkling, have some faith that others had stopped, maybe I could, for another day, and have enough confidence it was worth the effort and exposure to other people to try and make my life work once more for a day. So it was tough, and that is why the company of other people who have been through it and are going through it, because don't think for a moment you're the only one. Newcomers arrive every day. Some stay, some don't. Some come back another time, some never come back. Anyway, in my early days, pounding the pavements, walking to meetings in the first 90 days, as many meetings as I could, reading the big book of AA, reading the 12 and 12, and anything else which might help me, which might help, really did keep me focused on sobriety. I could see the connections and read the words which made sense in reading them, and why was it I still felt so horrible and out of touch with reality? Simply, I had no peace of mind and was full of paranoia, looking over my shoulder and wondering when the world would end, or would I go into the pub which I'd just passed, or could I smell the drink coming out wafting in the air. So, looking over my shoulder and wondering when the world would end. These are the defects of character. I started to realise that pretty much everything I'd done in the last days of drinking had provoked and made possible the living hell of every defect of character. So I stopped drinking, and somebody said, it might feel worse before it gets better. Well, they were right. At the same time, as the rattling stopped and the physical pain abated, I started to listen to people with courage, people with faith, and people with confidence. It started to rub off, the feeling that life was no longer hopeless and that life could be hopeful again. I really needed to understand why that I was making a change in how to live life. And the only way to get the wisdom was simply to keep on living the new life. So I too would have experience and wisdom, just a very little bit at a time, and for a day. Then everything in fellowship seems to fall into place. Eventually realising the old life was full of spiritual experiences and wisdom, the cannot do in the future. So the old life was full of all the old stuff. Still a spiritual experience, because the spiritual is good, bad and ugly. We learn from every experience in the moment of now. The old life was the cannot do in the future and today. but it's only for today, so it's just cannot do today. I cannot take a drink. Rather, I need not. I don't want to. I don't really think about taking a drink unless I'm writing about it. And even then I'm not actually thinking I need a drink, because it wouldn't solve anything. And the new life was all about can do in the moment of now. And I was learning the difference just one day at a time. So it's very like the serenity prayer. Also really realizing that we're all imperfectly perfect. Sometimes we go backwards and sometimes we go forwards in our learning about what we can and cannot do. Cannot do the old life of step 6. Can do the new life in step 7. Developing my shortcomings. That's not enough of something. Which in my case was all about courage to change, faith and asking for help and accepting help. And that it was never going to be straightforward, because help, like life, is somewhat haphazard and never as immediate as I might expect or want. So it's very easy to ask for help and say, I need help. What with? And it won't happen straight away unless we can be a bit more clear, or somebody says, what's going on? And that might not happen immediately, because life is like that. So in the AA Big Book, in Appendix 2, it is all about the spiritual experience. And this is for me and not for anyone else. You judge you work out what your belief and opinion is, and I respect it. I need respect. You have the right to your opinions and beliefs, and that's absolute. Might not agree with them, might not understand them, but I shouldn't fear the fact that you're different. All I need to do is be aware of what I believe. So now that I understand, the best spiritual experience for me is where emotional and spiritual are in the moment of now, and that's knowing my feelings and coping with reality. Emotional, knowing my feelings and coping with reality. That's spiritual. Yeah, well, it's not just knowing them, it's experiencing feelings which fit the present moment. So it might be a good feeling, a bad feeling, an ugly feeling, and if it fits with what's going on, because it is about life right now, then we're having a spiritual experience where feelings fit reality. When we have a breakthrough, yeah, well, actually, yes. And if I can't cope, I can ask for help. So I don't have to fear not knowing the answers. And if somebody said to me, you ought to know that by now, how old are you? You say, well, it's not within my life experience. It's like if I lived in a desert and I was a nomad, and I'd never been in contact with anything but the people around me who had no particular beliefs other than it was a good idea to keep moving to where the water was. And you said to me, why don't you believe in God? Or, I don't know. I've never experienced God in my life. Well, what about the whole universe? And then, of course, a debate will ensue. So, but by the way, before we start talking about that, we need to get on to the next oasis of water, or we might be in trouble. So all this talk may be for nothing. Otherwise I won't be able to experience what you're talking about. So there are times when we cannot connect to the present moment, and those spiritual experiences are those are spiritual experiences when we're out of touch with reality. So, you know, if you were going to meet somebody and share your hope about God and the Bible to somebody who's a nomad in the middle of nowhere, and he says to you, come with us to the next watering hole, and you say, no, I'd rather stand here and preach to you, that's not exactly the best spiritual experience for the person who's sharing about God, because they have no water. Anyway, what am I talking about? I'm being realistic. There are times when we cannot connect to the present moment, and those are spiritual experiences when we are out of touch with reality. When we have a breakthrough where we suddenly realize that life will improve in the present moment, we feel enlightened and we can feel exhilarated, a bit like the journey from rock bottom, where we all got to with our drinking, to rock on, life rocks. So rock bottom is step 6, the very worst of living, to step 7, where there's the promise of living in the moment of now, where it can rock on. The good news in recovery is, sober we have a chance to cope with every eventuality, and if we cannot cope, we can ask for help. Once I put down the books for a few weeks and started to relax and realised that sometimes some peace and serenity would be possible, that's when I started to relate to people in fellowship and become part of fellowship rather than a tourist, or somebody sitting there in judgment of what's going on here, don't know if I like this. So I parked my judgment of myself and other people, joined in, started listening and laughing at the worst of times that people shared, the tall stories that we all have, and then really laughing at the best of times. I was afraid that if people saw me having fun, this is what happened. I was afraid that if people saw me having fun, they might judge me badly, because he's only a newcomer, why is he laughing? Because I have a right to, because something was funny. And the paranoia started to ease. Nobody was trying to make me do something against my will. I was fighting an internal battle with my own self. Everybody that knew me said, I prefer him to be sober and happy. Yet this poor person inside my head was saying, I want a drink and I don't need a drink. And that was going on. So it was an internal turmoil. After a while I stopped worrying about what other people thought. I started to feel it was okay to start from scratch all over again. I know nothing, I need to learn. Without the burden of expectations and without the burden of entitlement based on the old life. Well, I've done all this, why can't the world accept me as who I am today? And that's because I didn't know who I was. I just wanted the old life back with lots of money and a nice house and the prospect of a marriage and children. Completely and outrageously impossible back in the day, and still pretty impractical now. I'll be umpteen thousand years old by the time any children grew up, if anything's working down below. It might be past its prime. Well, I know it's past its prime, but anyway. So after a while I stopped worrying about what other people thought. I started to feel it was okay to start from scratch all over again, without the burden of expectations and entitlement based on the old life, and just start again with a new life. Nothing had been wasted if I were able to live and experience life real, one day at a time. I don't know about the nature of other people, but I do know that if I stopped going to meetings and stopped relating to people in recovery, I would get forgetful, and old life behaviour can creep back in quite quickly. Judgmental, why has the world done this to me? Well, the world hasn't done anything to me. It's just life. Life on life's terms. So I can get forgetful, and old behaviour can creep back in quite quickly. And this is why I try to relate what it is like to be a newcomer, making those first steps in recovery. Because it is blinking hard, and it hurts, and it's painful and fearful. And then it stops being hurtful, painful and fearful to the extremes. But we do get our natural fears about situations like crossing the road. It's not I have the faith to cross the road when it's busy. Faith in the next right thing is finding a crossing for people where it's less likely to get knocked down. So it's realism, getting back to real. And this is why I try to relate what it's like to be a newcomer. And when I go to meetings and stick close to fellowship, I am reminded of myself. And how easily anyone can slip backwards and then find themselves full of the old problems and attitudes which can lead to a drink. Fellowship works for me. This is me saying me. It works for me. The fellowship works. In unity, service and recovery. And the first step made by a newcomer is the beginning of fellowship, where unity, service and recovery begin by just being there. So as a newcomer, job done, being there. And then, as we feel able, we volunteer to do what we can, when we can. So some people start volunteering to welcome people to a meeting as a greeter, make some tea, sweep the floors, put the chairs out. A bit later on, maybe help with some more difficult service around finding people to do chairs, looking after the money and all that. But that's, you know, as a newcomer, all you need to do is be there. It's like the Peter Sellers film, Being There. It was all about the moment, being in the moment of now, and very straightforward and simple. But you know, we as humans make it complicated. So all we need to is be part of something bigger than us, where there is experience, strength and hope shared one day at a time. And this is how it has been working for quite a while with me. And it's always just for today. So it doesn't mean I don't make plans about the future. I can make realistic plans based on where am I now? Where do I want to get to? So what are the steps in between? So realism. And it's not about ideology, it's not about ideals, it's not about being perfect. It's about how to live life with courage to keep on changing, faith in whatever your beliefs and opinions are, which help, and the confidence to keep going and coping, and if we can't cope, ask for help, because underneath all of this, underpins everything, is learning more and new ways, and letting go the old ways and doing less of the harmful things in our lives. So it impacts in all respects, because not only do we stop drinking, we have a look at the vices and virtues of life and see what pattern of life better suits us. But that's later in the steps, later in the year. So that's me for January. I had no intention of doing these videos at the beginning of the month. I was retiring from it, and then I went to a meeting in December which made me feel like it would be a good idea to do some more. So I checked it out with one or two people, and they said, well, have a go, see how it goes. So I have. I don't know how long for. There goes a police car to something. Time to stop. So the old life, step 6, extreme fears, extremes of hiding behind a brave face, putting on an act to say I'm okay when I'm not okay, and ego covering up my shame and guilt. That was the old life. Struggling to get back to something I could never do again, and then starting a new life, which was about courage to change me and my attitudes and behaviour, not completely throw away everything from the past, because there's a lot of wisdom there which is still useful today. So, but courage to change, faith in whatever is your faith and belief system, absolutely right for you. We all work out what it is for ourselves, and we don't push it on other people. We can share about our faith and beliefs, but it's not for other people to then say, oh well, that's the best thing since sliced bread. If it feels right, adopt it. If it doesn't feel right, don't adopt it. So for me, courage to change, faith in the next right thing works, and confidence growing out of good connections, good things happening, and learning from the bad and the ugly as well. So, you know, accepting that if you're a sailor on the high seas and a sailboat, there are good, bad and ugly moments, and the same is true of all life and living. And that serenity prayer can do the new life, cannot do the old life, and the wisdom to know the difference. Can do, can't do, in the moment of now. Quick and easy. Holds me tight. When I'm in a queue and somebody pushes in, I've only got one item, would you let me through? I can do, if I choose to, or I might not do, based on how dare they steal my life from me for a minute. I don't know till I get there. Depends on who's asking and how they're doing it. I'm still human. So the serenity prayer helps me understand my can do, can't do in the moment of now. God, and it's the fastest way back to serenity from madness. And February is all about the insanity that we have to let go, the old life. I'll say it now. God, grant me the serenity, or to the good of life, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is just for today. Keep coming back. It works if you work it, so work it, you're worth it, is another saying. Can do, can't do in the moment of now. What a great serenity prayer. Still have to get back to serenity, and that's done by new behaviour, courage to change, faith in the next right thing, and asking for help if we need it, confidence growing. Enough. January done, and step 1 is never done. All the steps, living in the moment of now, living experiences, experiencing life in the moment. But I won't go on about step 1 in February. Get to step 2.